As the years pass by, many of us struggle to maintain our youthfulness and physical vitality. However, one rock icon seems to have found the key to eternal youth. Interested to know his cheat code? Look no further than Lenny Kravitz, the songwriter who has turned the heads of fans and fitness enthusiasts alike with his jaw-dropping physique. And now, Kravitz is ready to share his secrets to eating and training with the world, so let's get into this video already. Earlier, Lenny Kravitz posted an image to his Instagram account that, at least to his fans, appeared to be rather routine. He was in a tropical setting and he was eating from a coconut while appearing to be at ease with the world. As we've already mentioned, this is quite a regular fare for one of the most laid-back people in the world. But it was Kravitz's rig that caught many off guard. He had skin as smooth as silk, a poster boy six-pack, and arms that resembled pythons. A timely reminder that Kravitz is 58 years old and has spent the better part of the last 4 decades working as a producer and touring musician. However, he does not appear to have aged a day despite spending what appears to be approximately 35 of those years meditating on the edge of a cliff. So what exactly is Kravitz's secret? Although we're sure that having an estimated net worth of $80 million doesn't hurt, the musician's most significant advantage is a pretty rigorous approach to wellness and spirituality. Kravitz has largely abstained from the fast-paced lifestyle he once lived during his rock and roll heyday. The 58-year-old evacuated his residence in Paris so that he could stay at his home in the Bahamas during the coronavirus outbreak, while lazing around in the warm rays of the sun on the island of elusive. The artist opened his refrigerator for Men's Health when they were interviewing with him through Zoom. "What we have is green and more green." He went on to explain that they had salad greens, mangoes, cucumbers, kale, and broccoli in stock. "The fact that I can cultivate my food is a significant advantage of my current location in the Bahamas." Kravitz claims that the vast majority of the food he consumes comes from his garden, even though he is now holed up at his home in the Bahamas. "As you can see, I'm a vegan and I eat raw food most of the time." As he went on, he said, "I have done extensive raw diets where I eat raw for an entire year. When I'm here, I try to consume as much food as I can, especially in the summertime when you have all these gorgeous fruits growing." He said, "I like to eat as much food as possible." Sugar apples, lemons, okra, cucumbers, and soursop are some of the fruits and vegetables that Kravitz cultivates on his property. Soursop's his personal favorite. Kravitz has been one of the most outspoken vegans in Hollywood for a very long time, and he has been eating only plant-based foods for quite some time. Men's Health took a tour of his refrigerator and found it to be filled with a veritable sea of green vegetables. Kravitz himself has taken the diet one step further by opting to consume the majority of his vegetables in their raw form whenever possible. He grows his fruits and vegetables on the estates he owns in Brazil and the Bahamas. He claims to be able to go for long periods adhering to either a fully raw diet or a diet in which he consumes no fruit or sugars and eats only vegetables. This allows him to ensure that the fruits and vegetables he does consume are as healthy as possible. On the other hand, he claims that his cheat meals are loaded with carbohydrates and typically comprise foods such as bread, pasta, pancakes, or waffles. Kravitz states that spending a lot of time outside is the primary source of the majority of the exercise he receives. The artist spends his long days cycling around the island where he lives, paddleboarding, and walking. However, he also has a trainer, and when it comes to weight training, he uses both dumbbells and weight plates with his trainer. According to him, he works out anywhere from 5 to 6 times per week, and the majority of the exercises in his weight training sessions are fairly straightforward. According to the program that was featured in Men's Health, Kravitz favors no-fuss exercises that are performed with perfect forms like dumbbell shoulder presses, squats, pull-ups, and abdominal crunches. One additional piece of evidence demonstrates that adopting a simple lifestyle may work wonders for virtually everyone.